Well, good afternoon and welcome to another iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and today I am joined by my friend Lee Drozak. Lee's going to be talking to us about her 10 tips to enjoy flexibility and freedom. Lee's a digital nomad who has crafted her business to prioritize flexibility and freedom. She also helps other small business owners build a profitable remote business, all while enjoying the digital nomad lifestyle. When she's not speaking and teaching, you'll find Lee reading a good book or visiting local treasures, traveling in her RV, and hanging out with her extended camp family. Well, welcome to iThemes Training, Lee. How are you doing today?
Hey, Nathan. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Awesome. So, Lee, are you at home base or are you traveling in parts unknown?
So right now I'm at home base. We just got done winterizing the RV so that we can move to the next leg of our adventure.
Sounds like fun. So we're talking today about 10 tips about flexibility and freedom. Lee, what was your life and business like before you discovered these things?
So my life was pretty normal because I'm adventurous, so I kept that part of it up. But the business got a little challenging and things got muddled because I couldn't quite figure out how to marry what I wanted to do with the services that I were providing. And so it was a struggle. It was difficult and stressful, but I knew that there was going to be an end to the light at the end of the tunnel. I just had to figure out how to make that happen.
Absolutely. So I look forward to hearing what you're talking about today. Give us a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be covering over the next hour.
So we're going to be covering some things that you need to have in place in order to be location independent. Mindset and some systems and processes, organization, support, and then finally addressing some of the challenges that come when you are working in a place that you are not familiar with.
All right, that sounds good. So for those of you just joining us, today's slides are waiting on you there at iThemes.com/chat. If you would like to ask questions as we go, please do so there in that chat room. I put the word question in front of your question. That helps to catch my attention to make sure we get that saved. And just one favor I would request, if you ask a question, just watch that chat room for the next minute or two in case I have a follow-up question for you so we can get Lee good, clear, answerable questions when we reach the end of the presentation today. All right, Lee, let's get started. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, let's go. So let's talk about the 10 tips for you to enjoy flexibility and freedom. Honestly, I could give you 100, 1,000 tips, but I really narrowed it down to the things that I found most helpful in crafting a business to live and work a location independent lifestyle. What we're going to talk about today is I'm trying to get the slide to advance, and of course, it's not working. Let me see if I can't. Oh, too far. We're going to talk about what it takes to successfully be location independent. Again, from lessons I learned along the way. And a lot of it is mindset and motivation work. You know, you need your systems and your tools and your resources, and of course, some structure and stability. And then finally, you want to gather a community of peers so that you can have a good, solid foundation and ability to look past the roadblocks. So let's get started by talking about some of the terms and the nuances. So I started remote working in 1998 for a mortgage title company. And basically, I had to use dial-up. I was chained to my office because you literally had to plug the phone into the wall in order to connect. And I don't know that there were very many affordable laptops at that time. So when you're remote working, you're not necessarily being location independent because you're in a specific environment that's just different from a traditional office or workspace. Usually you have access to stable internet and creature comforts like electricity and furniture and desks and whatnot. But the problem with this is it does create less freedom and flexibility. You can't do or be where you need to be because you've still got that tie to a location. Now, location independence, on the other hand, is about crafting a business or a career that allows you to work from anywhere, because you're creating a work style around the lifestyle that you choose and prefer to be part of. Normally, when you're location independent, you do have a home base. So right now I am in my home base, which is a condo in Pennsylvania. But as a digital nomad, I also have an RV and go to other locations. And this makes it more sustainable than being a digital nomad because, like, look, the RV life and van life and international travel is really amazing and fun, but you don't really have a soft space to land. And most people who live that type of lifestyle will tell you after a while, it gets a little challenging and it could be a little less sustainable because of these challenges. So what we're going to start with is tip number 1, knowing your why and embrace your unconventional choices, especially in a conventional world. Because look, not everyone is going to understand why you choose to live and work this kind of life. We are getting to a point where it's getting more accepting to be location independent, remote working, whatever terminology you want to use. But there's still that huge block that people have, like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to not be in a home office or a safe space or whatever they feel is the traditional part of it? And so I tell everybody, first off, stop working everybody else's plan, because we're all different with different needs and different problems. We all have structure in our day in different, many different ways, right? We have to start accepting that we want to be different or unconventional in a conventional world. When I first really started to explore the type of lifestyle that I wanted to lead, I was building a business. So I was reading all of the books and taking the courses and watching the presentations and attending the events. But the advice out there wasn't necessarily for my lifestyle. The advice was more about, being a remote worker or, building an agency or, being part of a traditional office environment. So I had to look at what was presented to me in completely different eyes and say, this is great advice, but just not for me. So how can I tweak it? And so when you look for answers, you have to remember that there are answers out there. They may not be presented in the best way for you to hit your why. And, everything is always about, plan A and then plan B. But when you're working the way that I work and live the way that I live, you also need a plan C, D, E, and F. Because if something can happen, usually it will happen. And so I just operate from a space where I don't let others cast doubt on my plans or my dreams. I know what I want, and I'm trying to build the best business around that. So when you are starting out, or if you are really considering what you need to be location independent, just remember that you have your own specific reasons for doing it. And that should be front and foremost when you're making your plans. So the next thing is location motivation, right? Finding the right options of what fits your needs. Location independence isn't about having this picture perfect Instagram life. It's not about traveling to all the different places in the country or the world, or living out of an RV like I sometimes do, or a van. What it is about is finding the location that fits your needs. I have a friend who has 4 daughters, and they are all active in sports. And she's trying to build a business. And she was so frustrated because she was spending so much time at soccer fields and basketball courts that she wasn't getting anything done, and was working at like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning when her kids were asleep. And she finally came to me and said, like, how are you doing this? Like, I don't get how you're doing this. How are you doing all this traveling and still maintaining a sustainable business? And I said, because you need to figure out where you're going to be and then build the business to suit that. So when you're at a soccer field, is there a way that you can work, even if it's just doing CEO work for your business? Or can you drop the kids off and go to a coffee shop that is comfortable, that will allow you to work? So some of the places that I've worked in have been in doctor's office while I'm waiting for an appointment for a specialist. Sometimes you can be there for hours at a time. Or my kids were involved in sports, so I worked in basketball courts, I worked at football fields, I worked in the car while I was waiting to pick them up and drop them off. There are times where I just go to the local park because I need a change of pace. I don't like being confined to my home office. It really is stifling for me. You can hit up local cafes, because not only does that allow you to work somewhere, but it helps you support another small business. Finally, go visit mom. She misses you. Like, my parents live an hour or so away. And when I go down there, I usually spend a couple of days, because I know I can visit with them and I can do work in the same time. But that isn't only the only like normal places, quote unquote, to work. You can also find places that are income sources, like house sitting or pet sitting. There's a lot of opportunities there. House sharing. If you're in an area that maybe is a little more remote and it doesn't have great internet, look for libraries, or even like event spaces that just have the resources and the facilities, but aren't booked or have some openings. Of course, there's co-working spaces. Finding a comfortable and quiet place to work is easier now than ever. And, a lot of people are more welcoming because they want to look like they have a robust business, even in their downtimes. So there's those options as well. And finally, rely on your network. They are your best source of places. If I'm going to be somewhere, I put it out on social media. Hey, I'm going to be in Hilton Head for 2 months. Where's the best places to work? Where can I go? What tips can you give me? So just by making sure that you have those options, then it makes it a lot more easier to work. So the next thing that you want to do, these slides are killing me, is you want to figure out what your money motivations are. You need to have a well-rounded plan that jives with your lifestyle. So, as you can see, like, the main theme here is this is mostly business 101 with a twist. So everyone has different financial goals, and having a balanced plan will really help you to create a remote lifestyle. My financial advisor and accountant said you really need to have 3 pockets of income: assets, investments, and revenue. So assets are, the things that you can trade for quick cash: houses, cars, any kind of equipment that has any kind of value. And then, of course, you want your investments, because you always want your money making money. So look at some ways that you can get returns on the money that you have coming in. But you really need to rely on a good revenue plan. So when you're looking at your revenue streams, you want to make sure a few things. Are they sustainable for your lifestyle, especially if you're going to be doing a lifestyle on the road like I am, because there's a lot more that goes into providing a good, well-rounded customer service plan. The first is you need to be available. If I'm driving in the car for a day, I'm not necessarily available to take meetings or even to hit up a client's emergency of where I'm at. You need to really know your profit margin, because that's going to help you make clear plans and better decisions. So if you're not quite sure what you're doing, or you have never read Profit First, I really would start there. It's a great, easy read that kind of puts everything in context of how you can set up your business with buckets to help you to hit all three of those marks: the assets, the investments, and the revenue. But more importantly, it helps you to plan for emergencies, because look, travel can get expenses, and the additional resources can cost you as well. So not only do you need to figure out your day-to-day costs, but you need an emergency plan as well. You may need to invest in tools and equipment that will make your life on the road a little easier. But again, it all comes down to cost. And when you're traveling and you have to factor in, having an extra data plan so that you can connect mobily, that's an expense, and it will hit your profit margin or your bottom line. So, take that into consideration as well. And then finally, passive income. Passive income allows you to earn money with minimal effort. But the problem is that passive income isn't set it and forget it. Passive income, you still need to be involved somehow, because if you create a bunch of ebooks and you don't do anything with them, eventually somebody's going to create a better ebook. So you're not going to get the income from there that you could or should. I found that by having recurring revenue, that's the key to my plan. So in my other business, I am a WordPress helper, implementer, and developer. So I have a maintenance plan that allows me to bring in that recurring revenue each month without being fully hands-on, or without me having to design a website or develop something. So it allows me to be a little different in my plan for bringing income in. And so the next thing that we want to talk about is, let me get these slides. The next thing that we want to talk about is having great systems. So great systems will prepare you for anything. Every business needs to have a set of systems and processes, because they are the key. Because really, your business is a system of systems, or a systems of processes. They are patterns that allow you to effectively and efficiently run your business. They really allow you to be prepared for anything. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you document your processes so that it's easier to follow along without thinking, or to hand off your tasks to team members or support people. You want to work your systems so you are way more productive. Now, for my systems, I had them in a Google Doc, but I recently switched it to Notion. And the reason that I did that was it's just a lot easier to visually document. So I screencast and screen share, and then also I do some audio for context. So when you're preparing your systems, it's best to try to be as detailed as possible. You also want to make sure that you have checklists, because your checklists are the equivalent of don't make me think. I thought I was really good at creating checklists, and then I read the checklist manifesto and realized that even my checklist system needed some work. But here's the thing with checklists, whether it's for business or life, it allows you to just be present in the moment of what you're planning to do. So last year we were headed to Hilton Head, and we were leaving December 31st to be there January 1st. And December 20th, I got a phone call from my daughter. She had fell off a ladder and broke her arm and needed help. I literally 10 days to go down there and help her. Now, fortunately for me, I had started to pre-pack things, and I had checklists. I have checklists of everything that needs to go in the luggage, in the different, from my kitchen, from my bedroom, from my personal care, everything that I needed to take. So my husband said, go ahead and go. I'll take care of it. You got most of the work done. And I was like, okay, I have a checklist. This is pretty cool. Well, he didn't follow the checklist. And I got home with 1 day left, and I was so scattered at that point, it wasn't even funny. And I didn't follow the checklist. So when we got to Hilton Head, I was missing a bunch of stuff. I didn't have hat, gloves, a jacket. I didn't have some of the comfort items that I needed. Now, fortunately for me, we have shopping and Amazon, and I was able to easily replace him. But it was an added expense that I didn't expect. Not that I wasn't prepared, but that I really would have preferred not to have to take. So when you're doing checklists, it's not only about your business processes, but it's about the things that you need to sustain your lifestyle as well. And finally, you have to remember that your processes need to change and adapt to your business and your lifestyle. They are working, living, breathing things and should always be treated as such. So the next thing is the tools. The right tool will always save the day. Like, who doesn't love a good app or software or technology that makes life so much easier? But tools aren't all about techie things, right? So let's start with software. Software helps your business to run more efficiently, but there are so many choices out there that it actually can be very stifling. So when I'm looking to add a tool or software or app to my business, I look at the decision cycle. And what I do is I research. I gather the data that I need based on past experiences and what's available to me. Then I do some analysis. Do I have the right information to make that choice? And the right information isn't just everybody else's recommendations. The right information is, how am I going to use it? How is it going to help me? What kind of improvements can it make? Is it going to help me sustain the lifestyle that I'm trying to lead? And then, of course, the evaluation period. Like, does this really fit into my needs? Is this something that I'm really going to need? And then planning. What's the best way to implement and use this? Because by switching tools, like you change your underwear, isn't helpful when you're creating a location-independent lifestyle. And look, tools are more than software and apps. You need the right equipment and comfort items. So I always have a to-go bag ready with my most needed tools. And this really came in handy when I had to literally grab my bag and head to my daughter's whenever she had her accident. And in my bag, I have extras, extra cords, extra comfort items, extra things that I need so that I don't have to run around my house and gathering. There's 3 things that I need to add when I'm ready to leave, and that's my laptop, my iPad, and my cell phone. So by planning ahead and pre-planning with the right tools, I don't have to get somewhere and think, oh no, I don't have a charger, or oh, I forgot my vitamins, or whatever I need for my day-to-day things. So you also want to look at your non-standard or personal care items. I always take sunscreen with me because I never know when I'm going to be sitting outside. A pair of sunglasses. I also have bug spray because, like I said, I like to work in parks, and sometimes you're there, and I'm like a mosquito magnet. So I have to make sure that I'm prepared for that. A light jacket never hurts to have. I also have tea bags and some of those powdered drink mixes with my water bottle so that if I'm out and I'm thirsty, I can replenish. And I started that actually because traveling through the airport, there's only certain things that you can take. So I just found that by addressing that situation, it just worked out all the way around. So the last part about having some tools is there's a lot of cloud-based options right now, and cloud-based is helpful, but sometimes it becomes problematic. One, if you don't have a good internet connection, you are not going to be able to access the things that you need to access. And two, privacy items are really a big concern now because it's about keeping people out as much as letting them in. So always make sure that you take security and privacy into play too. I use a VPN. I even use it at home because I'm a little paranoid. But having a good VPN is key. And for those of you who use mobile data, a lot of the cellular services now, I know Verizon and AT&T offer it. They offer their own VPN service to kind of keep you with that little extra added protection. So just remember that, there are a lot of factors that go into the right tools, but the tools aren't always about, do I have the right project management system or do I have the right billing system? It's more than just going above and beyond software. And then you have to think about your work habits, right? So we are now into the portion where we're going to talk about your day and scheduling. So you want to work on habits that add strength to your business. And it's all about time management or properly managing your time. But you also need to work on the balance between the business and personal life. So I was always told there is no such thing as work-life balance. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that or don't agree with that. But I found that by having these 4 skills or habits, it really helps me throughout my day and my work week. And the first is patience, resistance, courage, and consistency. So let me expand on that a little bit. So patience is to not be or do everything. When you're remote working or working location independent or want to travel or have whatever your reason is, you need to adopt the mentality that no man works on an island by themselves efficiently, and you shouldn't either, right? You should have the help that you need, have the team, because there are going to be things that just are not good for you to do, or that are kind of counterproductive if you try to do everything yourself. And then I practice some restraint because I'm always trying out and adopting variations to my systems, both my documented business systems and my lifestyle systems. So I want to make sure that I give my new systems or something that I'm trying for the first time a chance to succeed. So by pulling back a little and being a little more open mind, I found that has really been helpful too. And then, of course, the courage to address what's going to work, what doesn't, and to be different, right? The courage to say, this might be a huge epic fail, but you know what? I'm going to try it anyways, because I don't know if spending 8 hours in a car is going to be the best thing for my mental state for the next 2 days. Maybe I have to go 4 hours and then stay overnight. Or maybe instead of going to the park down the street, I need to go to like 2 parks away so that I don't run into as many people as I normally do. And then, of course, consistency. To make your business more resilient, you have to show up. And show up is not just, posting content consistently. It's actually walking your walk, right? Are you providing the type of customer care that you are hoping and that you have outlined for your people? Are you showing up when you need to show up? Are you stepping back when you need to step back? So consistency really has been the key for me, because look, everything doesn't need to be electronic or digital for it to work, but it's nice to have that balance, and that balance really marries online and offline, especially if you're going to be remote working or traveling like I do. So the next thing is, I started practicing this probably within the last 6 months, and that's to schedule some time for chaos in your day, right? Scheduling's a personal choice, and sometimes we live by our calendar, and if that works for you, hey, more power to you. But for me, it doesn't. And I tried to do the block scheduling, and that didn't work. And I tried to, put everything on my schedule and make sure that everything was, on my calendar, and that didn't work. And then I was talking to a friend, and they were like, why don't you just schedule some chaos time? I was like, what the heck is that? Chaos time is crucial to help you from being derailed while you're working remotely. It's the idea of it is to expect the unexpected and then schedule some time to embrace that. Because look, emergencies and urgent items can and will rear their ugly head. But by being a little spontaneous, it can help you throughout your day to not get overwhelmed. So each day I schedule 2 hours of chaos time. It's usually around lunchtime, and because that's when I hit my lull. So I know that if I have something that comes up, I have some time to factor in to make things right in my schedule. And here's the thing, the worst case about this is that you'll have extra time in your day. You have extra time to take on another project, or to work on your business, or to take a nap and just have some downtime. By allowing yourself to embrace having nothing in your schedule but a reason to let life happen seems to have made all the difference for me, because, if you're traveling, you might hit construction. If you're at a doctor's office, they might get waylaid and you might have to be there. If you're taking kids back and forth to soccer practice or some kind of sporting event, that coach isn't on your time schedule. They're on their own. So by allowing this chaos to happen, it actually allows you to take a step back and not be stressed like, okay, how am I going to get everything done in my day? And then, of course, downtime is essential. It's essential to keep you from burnout. Your mindset is your best asset, and practicing constant hustle can lead to burnout. Look, high performance doesn't mean you're chained to your business. High performance means you're making smarter decisions and you're giving yourself permission to breathe a little bit. So what you want to do is make sure that you take the time to stop working and just enjoy whatever it is that you are building this life to enjoy. Take advantage of the scenario. Sometimes when I travel, you see some kind of crazy road sign that says that looks like it should be cool to go visit. I make sure that I go visit it. Or spending time when you go to the park to work in the park, take some time to watch the kids play or listen to the birds or have a cup of coffee and read a good book. If you're couch surfing with friends as part of your overall plan, set aside some time to just visit with them, to be present in conversations with them, or help them out when they are cooking dinner or whatnot. So downtime actually allows you to be more productive and creative, because you're giving yourself a chance to recharge and to just have a breathing room, have some time to just stop and say, you know what, I'm doing okay. Everything's going good. So now that you've got the schedule down pat and you've got your day kind of figured out how you're going to make it roll, you need to find the right partners and backup buddies, because you can't and shouldn't be doing this alone. It's not about building a huge agency or having 1,000 employees. It's about a support system that helps you embrace your unique challenges and your uniqueness. So first of all, you want to find partners who can help you collaborate, refer other business to, or that you can promote and they can promote you. So I have a buckets of partners, and the first are just people that complement my service, my go-to people, my go-to copywriters, graphic artists, coaches, life coaches, that I can say, you know what, I don't do that, but I know someone who can. Or that I can use as fallback if my work gets a little too busy, that I can fall back to them to say, hey, I need a quick brochure site designed. Are you up for the challenge? I have found too, by this giver's gain of having those relationships, I am getting as much work referred to me as I refer out. Because when I'm on the road, I don't want to have to be constantly networking or doing the sales pitch. I want to be able to just be me and do what I'm trying to do, and that's live life to its fullest. You also want to make sure that you get the help that you need for your business teams, a VA, a bookkeeper, an assistant, a creative director, whatever it is that you need, that you look at your tasks and you say, okay, I can do that, but that doesn't make the most efficiency of my time. Or that you can say, you know what, like, that's just something I don't want to do. It doesn't bring me joy. It makes me stressed out. It probably takes me 10 times longer than I can. That's where you start, by making sure that you make the investment in your business to get the help that you need. And then you want to have a buddy that you can call in a pinch. So do you remember like the emergency contact days when you were in school? I don't know if they still do that, but I guess I'm dating myself a little. But you'd go to school, and the first week of school, you'd bring home a paper that mom or dad would have to fill out. It says, if they're not available, who can they call to come rescue you from whatever situation you're in? Well, you kind of need those for your business too, right? Because, maybe you're on the road, or maybe something comes up and you can't be present at that moment and you need someone to pitch in. I had a friend who got pretty ill, and he didn't have an emergency backup plan. Now, fortunately for him, he had an amazing bunch of colleagues who were ready to step in at that moment to help him out. But the problem was he couldn't work for a few weeks. And if he wouldn't have had that support system of partners and colleagues that he was friends with, there's no way he could have efficiently or successfully run his business for those couple weeks. And then playing catch up when he got back would have been even harder. So basically, don't be afraid to ask for help. Find people who complement you and your work style and your business values, and have a conversation with them and set up an emergency backup system. And your team too. Your team should be like your go-to for emergency support. You also need to find accountability buddies, or a business bestie, or someone who can help you flesh out things that are happening in your businesses, changes that are happening. You want to have that support system from keeping you from being lonely, because when you are working remotely, whether you're working in a home office or you're working in a co-working space where there's very few people, it's not like when you're working with a bunch of employees or a big team. It can get lonely. So just by having that person to help you talk through a scenario can make the world of difference. And then finally, you want to make the challenges that you're facing into new opportunities. And these are mostly tips for when you are working a digital nomad lifestyle or life on the road. And the first is your lack of community. So I've met tons of amazing, amazing people on my travels, but it's not like the people that I grew up with or my best friends or even my family. My family is very close. And when I'm gone, I miss them. And there's that little bit of fear of missing out too, because life continues to go on when you're not there. And so you have to really look at what memories am I making and not what am I missing that's happening at home. And then the creature comforts too. So we, even though we have the RV and that's kind of like one of our spaces, we do a lot of Airbnbs and short-term rentals. And most of the time we make sure that it has the basics that we need, but nothing beats a good mattress. Like I love coming home and getting a good night's sleep in my bed. And my husband, loves our couch. He picked out our couch specifically for himself. So there are things at home or in your current surroundings that you're going to miss, and you have to be okay with that and either find portable replacements or just find something that is going to allow you to do things differently, whether it's a good mattress pad that you could take with you to make up for your bed, or a Ninja Foodie because you can't take your convection oven with you. And connectivity challenges, always an issue. There are places you're going to go where you're not going to get service. There are places you're going to go where you're not going to be able to access Wi-Fi. So you have to have backup plans for all of those. But look, most of us have smartphones, and most smartphones have mobile hotspots. And in a pinch, there you go. That solves a lot of the problems. And also look at your cable provider. So I have Spectrum, and Spectrum has their own Wi-Fi network. Now they're not everywhere, but there are a lot of places that they are, that if I run into a connectivity issue, I can use that in a pinch. And then a lot of times I know if I'm going to go to a place where there isn't a lot of connectivity, I will use that to do planning or something offline. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to work that into your day. And then, of course, you've got rules and regulations and nuances of the locations that you're going to be. Some parks don't allow you or frown on you taking pictures, especially if there's a lot of kids playing, because it's a safety issue for them. So if you're planning on going there to record videos or take pictures, be cognizant of that. When we were down in Hilton Head last year, we did not realize how gated most of the communities were there. And so it was a little restrictive for us. But on the same token, if I stay there for 90 days and not 91, I don't have to pay income tax to that location. So just learn all about the rules and regulations of where you're going to be and make sure that you stick to them, because that's just good practice. And then finally, stability and discipline. Look, life on the road is fun and exciting and adventurous, but it's also fun and exciting and adventurous, meaning that there are days where you're going somewhere and you just want to be immersed in the culture and the environment, and you really don't want to work, but you've got commitments and you have to stick with those commitments. So basically, when you're on the road, it's great to factor in the chaos time and the downtime, but you have to be cognizant that you have commitments and you need to stick with them. And while everything might seem up in the air, you're finally going to get your sea legs and figure out how to make that the instability or the snafus or the disruptions in your day eventually work for you. You're really going to figure out your most productive time of the day, because that's what it comes down to. It really comes down to what works for me and what works for this thing called life. So those are all of my tips, and I really hope that they were helpful for you. So at this point, if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. And don't forget to sign up for the Freedom and Flexibility Field Guide. And that just takes this information one step further.
All right, great stuff, Lee. And we've just dropped in the link for downloading that Freedom and Flexibility Guide to the chat room. If you're watching this on replay, I'll have it down below the webinar video, so you can download it there as well. Okay, so a number of questions have popped in here at the last minute, actually, and we've got those ready. If you have a question you haven't asked yet, please use the chat room at iThemes.com/chat. Okay, so first of all, Jean would like you to please repeat those 4 habits that you mentioned earlier.
So the 4 habits that I mentioned earlier, and let me see if I can figure out which slide it was on, is, oh, there we go, the habits. So the 4 habits are patience, restraint, courage, and consistency. Those are the 4 habits that I picked because I noticed that for my lifestyle, I do a lot of traveling. We go to a lot of places. And so I looked at what are the few things that I can add to my core values to help not only make my business a little better, but also my lifestyle a little better, especially since I'm traveling with my husband. I really need to be cognizant of him in the situation too. So I would say probably the one that I practice the most is definitely patience. Patience to just like stop and breathe for a minute, to allow myself to just be in the moment and the situation, or to not be in the moment and the situation.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's see. Ben would like to ask actually a couple of questions. First, roughly how many hours a week do you work, Lee?
So roughly I work 25 to 30 hours a week. Now that's a combination of client work and CEO work. I have a few team members that I'm now relying more and more on. I didn't in the past, but I found a good virtual assistant and a good tech helper so they can help me run some of the day-to-day tasks that I need to do for my maintenance and my recurring revenue.
Yeah. So Ben is now curious, how do you find the time to enjoy traveling, working that many hours a week, roughly?
So I split my day up. I found that a traditional 9 to 5 doesn't work for me. It really, what happens is I look at my schedule of where I want to be or what I'm going to do, and then I look at what work needs to be done for the week, and then I base my work week and my schedule on that. So normally I'm working probably 6 to 7 hours a day. So that leaves a lot of time, but I don't necessarily start working at 9 o'clock and end at 5. Sometimes I start working at 7 o'clock and I work till maybe 11, and then I take a few hours off. And then after dinner time, I go back at it. So I think at this point, you just have to figure out what works for you and what works for your clients.
Yeah.
And figure that in. But it's more about boundaries. I've really set some good boundaries to say, like I try not to work on weekends. That was a big stumbling block for me because a lot of people work on the weekends, especially if they're just starting their hustle. So it was a little difficult to do, but that's when I did a lot of my RV traveling. And I was like, I don't want to be sitting inside while everybody else is enjoying themselves. So you just have to find what works for you.
So one last follow-up from Ben, leading into some questions about traveling itself. Is being away from home a perk for you, or is it a luxury?
So for being home for me is definitely a perk. I like to do new things, try new things, and meet new people. And that I'm very much an extrovert. So I found that really helps me to not get stagnant or to get stifled or even to get I don't get as grumpy when I'm traveling because I'm always going somewhere doing something. And it's not necessarily always being busy. Sometimes it's just a change of environment. In December, we're going to the beach for a few months, and we'll be there for a few months. but that for me will be all that I need for those couple months.
Interesting. All right. So Sally has a couple of questions for you. She is from the UK, and she's asking if you have anything to say about language barriers. She would love to travel through Europe someday soon.
So language it's tough. And I think when you decide where you're going to go and there's a language difference, you have to get the basics down pat of that language. Look, there's all kind of translation things in Google Translate, but they're not accurate. So you have to really be cognizant. I have a friend who is she is living in Mexico, and that was her biggest challenge. Was she doesn't speak a lot of Spanish and not fluently, and the translation was really tough, but she's making it work because there are a lot of people in her situation now. She's found a lot of expat groups. So if you're going to travel internationally, I would say start there. Start with some expat groups in the area that you want to go, because they will really help you to navigate the waters and figure out what the basics you're going to need to overcome those barriers.
Yeah, that's great advice. Sally also would like to know if you do the driving in the RV.
So I do not, and not that I can't. I've been RVing since, oh gosh, I was little. And as soon as we got our driver's license, my father forced us to learn how to drive the RV in case of an emergency. So can I drive it? Yes. Do I drive it? No. My husband has a CDL license and he's a very good driver. So it's just a little less stressful when he's doing the driving and I'm doing the navigating.
Jean wants to know if you have mobile Wi-Fi set up in your RV.
So I don't have mobile Wi-Fi. I do take advantage of a lot of the parks now have a satellite service. So in the United States, there's a service called Tango Internet, which services a lot of the RV parks and campgrounds. So I take advantage of that. I do have an extender that I take with me. And then my fifth wheel is equipped with an extender. It's not the best. So I really, the one that I plug in and I think it's a Netgear, as a matter of fact, that I plug in is what I use to get service. And a lot of times too, campgrounds they'll extend you free Wi-Fi for a few days if you're going to be there. So I just see what they have available, and then I rely on my mobile hotspot. Now, fortunately for me, I have my husband who goes with me, and we both have a data plan on our phone. So that just helps all that much better if I get into a pinch.
Yeah. So moving into some business questions, Paul would like to know how much time you spend on the phone with clients. Does that depend on where you are, or how do you manage that with travel?
So that depends on where I am. I normally don't take meetings on Mondays or Fridays for clients. So I know if I'm going to be traveling, I try to do it on Thursday evening, and be in the place where I need to be on a Monday. If that plans are going to change and I have to go during the week, then I will pick up meetings on Mondays and Fridays. But it's just like anything else in business. You have to figure out what your schedule is going to be, what you want to work, and then work accordingly. I don't just randomly pick up the phone, because a lot of times I'm in the middle of creating something. So I really rely on my appointment schedule to get meetings scheduled. And all of my clients actually have I have a dedicated appointment for clients that opens up a little more time for them. But you know what, honestly, my clients all know that my work style and my lifestyle. And so it's never been a problem. It's never been a problem. If they need to get in touch with me, they'll send me a text and say, hey, when you get a minute, I have a problem that I really need addressed. Can you give me a call? So I think just by setting the standards and the boundaries before I started working with a client has been truly, truly helpful.
Yeah. Let's see. Mr. Anderson would like to know, what is the main way your care plan customers contact you if there's urgency?
So I have a ticket system set up on my website that it flags anything that is urgent or important. that they go to the top of the queue, and it's checked throughout the day. And then if it's something like a site down or an issue, I get an uptime ping, and I'll go and check that. Or I'll get a notification from the hosting environment. And then finally, if it's really an issue that they made a mistake and they took their site down, they will send me a text, and I'll get one of my people on it to just say, do the restore. I do regular restores based on if it's an e-com, it's obviously more frequent than just a brochure site, but I make sure that I have the most current backup from each day, and all of my processes include an easy restore.
Yeah. John is curious about what ticket system that you use.
So I use Support Candy, which is a WordPress plugin. I've tried them all, and I found that for me, that one seems to work the best. And one of the reasons that I chose it was because the support on it, their customer support is amazing, and it integrates with both Gravity Forms and WooCommerce, so that I can create specialized forms that go right into the ticket system, and it has email piping. A lot of my clients never even log into my support system. They just do everything through email. And with having the email piping, that is the extra added layer that I was looking for.
Very good. Let's see. Dave would like to, and actually we're running a little short on time, so maybe an abbreviated answer on this one. Dave is curious how you use Notion.
So I use Notion as like a workbook, kind of like a notebook, because with Notion, you can interlink pages with each other. So I have different buckets set up: systems, processes, other information that I need. And then I utilize screenshots and screencasts to help to document the process. And then I can share those with the team. It's kind of like an Evernote or some kind of notebook system. It just happens to be online digitally.
Yeah. If you've never seen Notion, it's notion.so. It is a little complicated to get set up from what I'm understanding. It's a little intimidating for some, but yeah, it's a powerful tool. Let's see. Lee, you mentioned...
they have a lot of templates too.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I talked over you.
I'm sorry. They have a lot of templates too to get you started.
Gotcha. So you mentioned something that I'd love for you to comment a little bit more on, because some folks may not be aware of this, but you mentioned about a certain window of how long you could stay in a location before you had to pay tax there. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so every place is different. We spend 2 to 3 months in South Carolina. So the first thing that I did was contacted my accountant, and said, I need to know the tax laws. So in South Carolina, or in the locations that we go to, they have a thing called short-term rental. So short-term rental is different than tourist rental, meaning if you spend 90 days there, you're not considered just a vacationer, and you don't have to pay the extra fees. But if you stay 91 days, then you're considered a long-term rental, and the rules change. So then they consider you to be like a part-time resident there. And that was one of the things that we wanted to avoid for tax reasons, is I didn't want to have to start muddying the waters of which states am I going to have to pay what taxes to. So we tried to keep it as clean and dry as possible. And fortunately for us, South Carolina ticked all the boxes, including that.
Yeah, that's just something to consider if you're going to work on the road and travel. That's just a little factor that I had not really thought about. Okay, one last question from Mr. Anderson. Lee, what does your husband do while you're working?
So sometimes he fishes, and sometimes he just walks the beach or takes a bike ride. Sometimes I send him a list and he goes to the grocery store, and sometimes he just sits and enjoys the peace and quiet. So he really is my backup if I need something done, or my runner if I need to go to the store, or if I'm having meetings, he usually tries to go outside of wherever I'm at, because most of the time we're either in the RV or a 2-bedroom condo. So the space is a little limited. So he'll go out and just visit with people, go walk around, go fishing. He has a lot of hobbies that he's picking up now.
All right. Well, Lee, this has been good stuff. Really appreciate your insight on this topic. Any final thoughts as we're starting to wrap up today?
Yeah, I would just say, it's a great way to live, but everybody thinks when you're location independent or a remote worker that you have to have these big aspirations to travel. And really, it's not. I mean, it could just be that you have, you don't want to be stuck in a home office because it gets a little depressing. So don't look at the traditional norms that are, that define this type of lifestyle. Look at what works for you and do that. And don't be apologetic about it. Just embrace it and do you.
Very good. Well, Lee, thanks again for being with us today. Really appreciate your insight. Thanks all of you for being with us as well. I've dropped a few links there in the chat for today's slides. The replay link, which will be available in about 30 minutes or so. And then once again, the link to download Lee's Flexibility and Freedom Guide. All right, we're back tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Time for office hours for those of you who are iThemes Training members. And until then, have a great rest of the evening. I'll see you back here tomorrow on iThemes Training, where we go further together.